guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'm Shannon Townsend.
And I'm Richard Townsend.
And you are tuned into the Married Marks podcast, where we talk about the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, the shit no one wants to talk about, the greatest and, yeah, occasionally the worst of professional craps news from around the globe. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. We do appreciate that you're joining us today, and I hope that you stick around for a whole lot more. But hey, if it's not your first rodeo, you know how this goes. We love you extra, extra hard. Whether it's your first time or your 161st, do us a favor. Like, subscribe, leave a comment on whatever site or app that you are tuned in on today. It would help elevate our profile. It does us a huge solid, and we would be most appreciative. We are part of the Inside Joke Outside Voice podcast network. You can learn more about them at ijov.net and visit our hashtag #PodEarnFamily. Shout out to Genius Pie for the Married Marks podcast theme song. You can catch them on Twitter at Genius Pie for all of your funny bone tickling musical needs. And hey, we want to hear from you, dear listeners. You, yes, you. Yeah, hit us up on social media. You can find us pretty much everywhere at Married Marks. Slide into our Twitter DMs. Or even better, hit us up an email, marriedmarkspod, that's P-O-D, at gmail.com. Use your words, people. Hello, baby.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week.
It's been a very... Is that Minnesota interesting? I feel like...
Oh, no, that's extremely Minnesota interesting.
We always have to clarify if it's Minnesota interesting or not. Because, like... Minnesota interesting is, like, for those of you uninitiated, it means judging. It's like judge, like, oh, that's interesting.
Yes. No, I mean, between my ER visit Monday night.
Yeah, so we've had an eventful week, and unfortunately we were unable to participate as much in professional wrestling as we would have liked this week. Also, shout out to fucking University of Minnesota. The Gophers for fighting Wisconsin on a Wednesday night. So
we were unable to even step foot in our normal Wednesday night bar where we watch NXT and AEW.
So it's been one of those weeks where I just feel like the wrestling gods have not smiled upon us. So we're going to do our best to just like cover a couple news things, and we've got some Black History Month stuff we want to cover this week. And then we're going to call it. So it might be a slightly shorter episode, but we wanted to at least give you something to work with this week. So, but we do have some interesting news that's come out over the course of the last couple of days, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So, most of this is going to be WWE news.
Uh-huh.
But Vince McMahon participated in the 2019 earnings call this week. And Vince McMahon discussed the possibility of selling the rights of their major pay-per-views to another streaming service.
Which is kind of crazy in the grand scheme of things.
So, going into what he said specifically, he said, we have a lot of options. We could continue on as we are now with an enhancement of a tier. We also have an option right now. There's no more better time to exercise the selling of our rights to all the majors who, quite frankly, all the majors are really clamoring for our content. So that could be a significant increase, obviously, in terms of revenue. So they're talking about selling the rights to companies like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, to stream the big 4 WWE pay-per-views.
So this is pretty huge news. I mean, I know we covered last week that there's been some pretty significant financial shakeups at the company, at the corporate level. They've restructured certain things. They've released some staff. They've brought new people in. Like from a corporate pencil pusher perspective, it's kind of fascinating to me. As weird as that sounds, like this is a weird move. I hate to say it, strange flex, bro, but, like, it kind of is.
Well, Vince also said that he did not confirm that the company was going that direction, but that it was just an option. But he did say that they are far along in negotiations for potential deals for the network, and that if it is finalized, it will be announced this quarter. So,
There's not a lot of time left in this quarter.
Yeah, we're halfway through the quarter almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close.
Well, I mean, So I guess here's my question is, do we foresee it being like one specific service or like
No, he said the majors.
The majors.
He said plural.
Okay.
So we're probably looking at like Hulu
makes total sense to me.
Netflix, Amazon Prime.
See, that is weird to me though. Like can you imagine like watching the pay-per-views on like Amazon Prime?
Yeah. I pay for Amazon Prime.
Actually,
already.
that's the thing. We already pay for Amazon Prime. So, like, that would, for some people that feel morally obligated to not directly give the WWE your money, this might be a good solution. But if they're only going to do it for, like, the major pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's just going to be for the big four. So, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania.
Although, to be honest, like, this year, WrestleMania, we're specifically watching as much independent stuff as we possibly can.
Yes, we are.
That's interesting to me. Netflix would be an interesting choice. And I don't mean Minnesota interesting. Like, I'm actually fascinated by this concept. This is intriguing to me.
Yeah, no, it's, there was also more. Vince McMahon also spoke about the management transition on that call, specifically commenting on the departures of co-presidents George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. During his opening statement, Vince praised Barrios and Wilson for their contributions to the company, but said WWE won't miss a beat with them gone. He also said, as you know, the board and I recently announced a management transition. This decision did not reflect a change in our strategy. It was made after careful consideration. We remain highly focused on growing the value of our content, furthering international expansion, engaging fans across all platforms. The decision was based on a different view of execution of our areas of focus. Over the 10 years, supported by a strong management team, George Barrios and Michelle made more than significant contributions to WWE. However, with the change, we won't miss a beat. We have a deep team of talented executives committed to our company who are more than capable of executing our strategy. The fundamental sources of our long-term growth, including the ability to capitalize on the rising value of live sports content, remains unchanged and strong. This was where it got interesting, though. We're currently changing the WWE culture to be more collaborative, more inclusive, developing initiatives to reimagine our company and content, bring in new ideas, enhancing our executive team by recruiting global talent. We remain extremely optimistic about our future and long-term growth potential. Quite frankly, I have more confidence than ever that we're going to exploit all of our opportunities. A change of culture.
So those are words that ring very, very loud and clear in my ears because those are words that I use a lot when I talk about that company. We talk frequently about the culture of the organization and how, I think in the past we've been pretty clear about the fact that I shouldn't speak for you, but I know you pretty much align with me here in that the culture of the WWE has been kind of living in that archaic, very non-progressive kind of momentum for a while. Like there hasn't been a lot of forward momentum. They haven't really, truly, in my opinion, invested a significant amount of time, effort, and or finances into being a more progressive organization. I think a lot of the things that they've done have been very, I hesitate to say dog and pony show, but that's kind of how it feels. I'm really intrigued to see what they mean by this and how they're going to back that up. Like, that's a bold statement. Also, if Vince was the one that said that, who's their current PR person? Because his verbiage is fantastic. I'm calling it like I see it. This is a public record fucking meeting. You think they're not going to have a publicist write every word that comes out of Vincent Kennedy McMahon's mouth?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Vince is a control freak.
This is so weird to me. Like, I'm so
Vince
intrigued.
Rewrites his writers' scripts for his wrestlers.
Yeah? Yeah?
You think he's going to let somebody write what he has to say about his company?
I mean, there's a difference between, when you're talking about representing the product and then you're talking about representing the full financial weight of your fucking organization. Like, that's different. Like, you're talking about, the end product which Vince, clearly has felt that he can control in whatever format and or methodology that he feels is appropriate. And literally the financial security and stability of the company side, like the administrative side of this organization. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's very different. That carries a very different weight. So yeah, I do think that nothing that is said on those calls is not run through their publicist first. 100%. I think anything that comes out of anybody's mouth there, for the most part, is gonna be fucking driven by their public relations head.
Yeah, probably.
That's just me. I'm sorry. Like, it's my fucking, my corporate ass background. I'm just like, I don't know. What do you think about this news, like, about, a focus on changing the culture of the company? What are your thoughts? Your expression says so much, but they can't see it.
I believe it's spin.
You think it's all spin?
I think it's spin. I personally have yet to see Vince McMahon make any progress forward.
Completely.
In that aspect.
Yeah.
Prove us wrong, Vince.
Well, I mean, we've been asking Vince McMahon to prove us wrong for years.
I mean, seriously.
Nothing's happened.
Prove us wrong. Otherwise, it's spin.
And it's so sad to me that, like, that's where we're at, is like, we just look at this information and we're like, whatever, you don't mean it.
He used a lot of buzzwords.
Uh-huh.
Changing culture. And, no, he used a lot of buzzwords.
Hey, listen, there's a possibility Vince finally got a hold of the Daniel Coyle books and, maybe educated himself a little fucking bit.
Found big words and decided, yeah, I'll just use these words, maybe.
I happen to like Daniel Coyle's books.
No.
Thank you very much.
I think the books are great. I think Vince didn't read shit.
Oh, no, I know. I'm legit making a joke.
I think he found big words, highlighted and said, I'll use these in the next press conference.
Actually, here's a funny fucking thing. Here's a fun activity you guys can do at home. Let's talk about these books for a hot second, because I do love to push these. There's an author by the name of Daniel Coyle who wrote a book called The Talent Code, and then a supplementary book called The Little Book of Talent. I've been using these books as training for dancers and actors and creatives for years because it's really awesome content. But, like, the whole concept is the author spent time traveling around the world and going to hotbeds of talent. Like, a very small dance school in Harlem that no one's ever heard of that produces award-winning dancers, like more award-winning dancers than any other place in the city. A tennis school in Russia that produces more award-winning, tennis players on an international level than any other fucking school. And he spent time studying, what goes into, what is the code behind talent? How do you codify the internal markings and make of talent? And then the Little Book of Talent are the notes that he made in the margin of that book as he was creating it and writing it. And it's really intriguing. I challenge you, because they're phenomenal little pieces of writing. They really are. I revisit them constantly as a writer and a creative, and they're just amazing books. I can't speak highly enough. Pick them up and read them. You can get them on Amazon. They're super cheap. I'm in no way endorsed to say this. I'm serious. Yes. Read them and then watch the current WWE product. And tell me if you think that their team thinks about the cohesive codification of what makes for a talented and intriguing product. Like, I'm getting a little heavy here. I'm not trying to start a Married Marks book club, but, like...
Tweet the word codification to Vince, and you bet you he uses it in the next quarter's earnings report.
Vinny, you can pay me to write for you, man. I'll do it. Like, do you want to hire me to work for the E? That would be the funniest fucking thing ever. He'd be like, you want to come work for me? Vince, I like the gays. You're fired. I'd being mean, but you know what I mean.
I do.
It's funny. I don't know. But anyway, there's my 2 cents. Chime in, check out the books. They're fantastic. And then, like, hit us up and let us know your thoughts. Because I legitimately want to know what people think about this. Do you think it's spin? Do you think it's just hyperbole? Do you think that there's some legitimacy behind this? And, like, what do you expect that if you don't think it's just spin, what's your take? Like, what are your thoughts on what this means?
Next story?
Next story.
So, the final chapter has been written in a very long story.
Do I need to get the Titanic music
No,
ready?
no,
okay.
No. So last year, remember when Scarlett Bordeaux left, I believe it was Impact?
Yes.
There was that whole debacle with Scarlett leaving. No, it was Ring of Honor, actually, I think.
It was... I literally can't remember.
I can't remember.
It sounds terrible.
But either way.
Sorry.
Scarlett Bordeaux left, and Scarlett signed with WWE, with NXT. But there was the overhanging, story of Killer Kross, her boyfriend, who was still with the company and then finally got his release. Killer Kross has signed with NXT.
Really?
Yes. It was announced earlier this week that Killer Kross and Timothy Thatcher have signed with the company. They have reported to the WWE Performance Center in Orlando and should start with NXT brand soon. Now, Timothy Thatcher, I am slightly unfamiliar with, but apparently Timothy Thatcher wrestled with Evolve. So,
okay then.
Yes.
Huh. I do appreciate that if nothing else, NXT is continually working on they're always in a state of motion, right? With their rosters. They're always churning like a machine. Granted, their tag division's a fucking disaster right now, but I appreciate that they continually keep people coming. They're continually working on building the roster. They're always looking on signing new people and, keeping things fresh, which I think is a big deal. What's intriguing to me, though, is they keep bringing these people on, and I don't think we're going to see a lot of people, like, quote-unquote, move up, even though I treat that as a lateral move. So I'd like to know, what are their intentions? What are they going to do? If you keep bringing people in, that's great, but, like, if you're not going to move people to the main roster, what are we doing with them? Because if you get to a point where NXT is too fucking saturated,
yeah,
they're the same problem as every other part of their product. So I have faith in them, though. Like, I don't really worry about that, but it's an intriguing thought.
Velveteen Dream has returned from injury.
Hey!
He showed up on NXT on Wednesday night.
Welcome back, sir.
So that's good news.
It is good news. I feel like, God, it's a shame, too, because he's been missing for arguably some of the most interesting months of the company's career. We've had no Dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of a travesty. So it's good to see him back.
I agree entirely. Also, we have the announcement of AEW Double or Nothing 2020.
Really?
Yes.
Are they doing Sears Center again, or
No, Double or Nothing is the one held in Las Vegas.
That's right.
It will be on May 23rd. So it looks like Labor Day weekend, or Memorial Day weekend, rather, yet again.
Yeah.
So, yet again, too expensive to fly there for us, so we will likely not be going.
No.
Especially because you're also going to be in Chicago the week before that.
I will. So, sorry about it.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. It's fine. Like, I don't... I'm not... Here's my other thing. Hot take. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I'm not so in love with the AEW product right now that I'm willing to schlep my ass all over the country. Like,
yeah.
Does that sound terrible? I know it probably does. But, like, from a fan perspective, there's a lot that they're still doing not great, in my opinion. There is considerable room for improvement. And until some of that is addressed, I'm not going to be willing to, like, drop, tons and tons of my dimes to fucking travel and jump all over this country just to take in an AEW show. Like, for the amount of money we would spend, this is going to sound terrible. I would much rather go to Chicago for a Rise show. Mm-hmm. That's just my 2 cents. Or a freelance show. Go down there and harass some of those wonderful freelance folks for a while. That'd be great.
The Revival.
FTR?
Yes. They asked for their releases again.
Is this real or story, though?
They turned down $700,000 contracts.
Wow. Okay. So we think this is like a legitimate thing.
Yes, so one of them will be free in April, and the other one will have to wait 10 weeks due to the really shitty clause in all of the wrestlers' contracts that state that the WWE gets to tack on injury time to their contracts.
I mean,
So take like Xavier Woods, who's probably going to be out for 13 months. He will have 13 more months added to his contract.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I'm gonna just be very real here. Nobody that signed with that company that didn't know that they were getting into that.
Well, I still think it's a shitty clause.
I do think it's a shitty
I
clause.
think that's exploitive. They injure themselves working for the company, and the company goes, okay, well, then we're just going to keep you on the shelf for another 13 months instead of letting you go.
I don't disagree with you. I completely agree with you. I think that it is an absolutely garbage clause. I don't think you're wrong. However, it doesn't change the fact that every single person who signs that fucking company, if they're smart, have a lawyer comb through that shit. I mean, that's a big fucking contract, so they know exactly what they're getting into. It doesn't change the fact that it's still a shitty clause.
So I believe we will likely see the Revival in AEW midsummer.
You know, I can't imagine them going anywhere but AEW after all the back and forth.
No, there is going to be a Revival Young Bucks match. It is going to happen.
It's going to be great.
And it's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be wonderful. I could see them saving that for like All In or All Out or...
yeah.
All
September. Out. A run-in.
Yeah. And, God, that crowd would go...
A shock run-in.
At the Sears Center?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That crowd would be fucking hot for that, too. I would honestly consider going to that one. Just to fucking, like, if we thought that was going to be a thing, I would consider. I don't know that I would do the whole crazy rigmarole again.
Oh, no.
Like, I had fun at StarCast.
I am considering All Out again come September.
Like, just the pay-per-view?
Just going, getting tickets, going down the day before, coming back the day after, just going
just like
to
a weekend.
Not going to StarCast, because StarCast isn't a thing anymore, apparently, so...
Really?
Yeah,
I missed that.
told you.
Oh, no, you did tell me about that.
We talked about that a few months back. That StarCast is probably done in Chicago.
I'm kind of. I mean, I had a really good time at StarCast. I honestly had a better time at StarCast than I did at the fucking pay per view because of like the shitty fucking experiences we had last year. Regardless, even if we don't go though, like I'll buy the pay per view to watch that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a fun viewing night here. Like, I would honestly consider doing that and, like, having one of our big, obnoxious, like, pay-per-view parties and maybe streaming our reactions. Like, that would also be super fun. Because, like, I want to support the pay-per-views. I just, that fucking crowd really fucking bothered me last year.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely.
And I don't know, that's the other thing. I don't know if AEW crowds are still having the same problems that we had. Like,
No.
That's the thing.
AEW's coming up this way. They're going to be in Wisconsin.
Where about?
University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Madison? Oh, Milwaukee. Okay.
I
I was
believe.
going to say, I didn't think there was any place in Madison that's big enough to host them.
The basketball arena.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. But Milwaukee's the easier city to get to
Yeah.
from like a Midwest perspective. So, like,
So-
Madison's great for idiots like us that are fucking over in the cities.
So,
But
who knows?
yeah, I would love to see if they came here. Where do we think they would go if they came to Minneapolis?
Probably the barn where the Gopher basketball team plays.
Like on the campus?
Yeah. I mean, I think they could pull off a maybe the Armory.
Armory would be a dope choice
I
for
think
that. I feel like it's a
Roy
little
Wilkins
small.
would work.
The Roy would be amazing because the Roy also hosts NXT when they come to town.
Yeah.
So the Roy would be my
There's
first choice.
also the arena at the fairgrounds too.
Oh, the Lee Warner Coliseum where the North Star roller derby
Mhm.
plays. Yeah. Yeah, because the Roy is where the Minnesota roller derby plays as well. Yeah, my personal choice in all of that is the Roy. Just because, like, there's not a bad seat in the fucking house.
Yeah, but I don't know that there's enough seats.
I think they'd be fine. I think the Roy would be good. I'm just curious. I'm really curious if any of our listeners have attended AEW shows now that they've started, specifically for Dynamite, not so much the pay-per-views. We're aware of that. I would love to know what the fan experience is, if fans have been overall positive, or if you've experienced some of the rampant, like, sexism, racism, homophobia that we experienced at All Out last year, because it was really, really frustrating. We had an excellent time at StarCast. Like, StarCast was an absolute delight. And, like, it might just be something about Chicago wrestling crowds are pretty fucking savage, in my experience. Like, when we went to AAW, like, that crowd was crazy to me. Like, they were very, like, I remember I even looked at you when we left and I'm like, wow, that was a really aggressive wrestling crowd.
Yeah.
And, like, nobody really crossed any lines for me that night, but, like, it was intense. But when we went to All Out, there were so many lines crossed, and I'm still not super sure I want to put myself in that arena for that event.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like it's kind of a recipe for disaster. But I want to see the pay-per-view. So, like, I'm contemplating just, like, we may just buy that one this year instead of going down to Chicago.
Yeah, there's a chance.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Chime in. If you're one of those folks that have had that experience since they've started touring and you want to sound off and let us know your thoughts, please do. Like, let us know.
So let's see what we got here for AEW. We do have information next week we're going to want to watch.
Okay.
A girl. The Beast.
Nyla
Rose will be challenging Riho for the title next week on Dynamite.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So AEW
Ooh.
Dynamite will be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on April 1st, 2020. And then they go to St. Louis on April 8th.
So they're making their way into the Midwest finally,
Yes.
which is excellent. That match will be worth the price of admission. I just need to make sure there's not a fucking Gophers basketball game that night.
Seriously. And the last thing I want to talk about before we go into the Black History Month stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rant.
I was going to say, you kind of slammed your phone down and gave me that look. So I'm like, either I did something to piss you off or you've got, like, wrestling stuff to say.
I got guy stuff to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just sit over here with my penis.
More along the lines of quote-unquote wrestling journalists.
Oh. You go right ahead. I'm just going to sit here and drink my my bootleg LaCroix.
I don't care how slow news might be for you. I don't care if you think it's a story. Making a story to comment on a former women's wrestling talent getting a boob job.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if you were going to talk about this.
Is absolute trash clickbait horse shit. Who gives a crap if somebody got cosmetic surgery? Don't try and pass it off as they were asking a question. No, you were clickbaiting to try and stir up controversy to bring views to your website. You're trash. Brad Shepard, you're trash.
Oh, we've known that.
Stop. Who gives a shit if Paige got a boob job?
Also, like, here's the thing. And these are words that I hate that I have to consistently use. But there's something like, I've spent a lot of time recently going back and, like, rereading my Batchbox segments and looking at, like, some of my perspectives. And I personally feel very, it's just commentary, but, like, I feel very disconnected with even the individual I was, like, when we started this podcast. Because everything was, like, woman focused. Like, my entire focus was, like, I'm a woman in this. I'm a woman. Like, da 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 da. And now that, like, I have kind of really more embraced that I'm non-binary, like I find my own verbiage slightly problematic at times in the things that I've said.
Oh, you said the word that you shouldn't use.
Or I shouldn't say problematic.
You shouldn't say problematic.
I know. Sorry, Eric's gonna yell at me. That's okay. I'm fine with it. He can yell at me. He's the only one that gets to. But like, here's my thing. The one thing that I used to say that I still very much identify with, even though I'm non-binary femme, right? Is the conversation around policing people's bodies. When people make unwanted commentary about someone else's body, that's policing their body. I don't care what your intention is. I don't care if your intention is a joke, because at the end of the day, no one's body is a punchline. No one's body should ever be a punchline. It doesn't matter if you think it's funny. You shouldn't voice it.
By the way, it wasn't.
No one gets to comment on someone else's body. And like, I know every single person on the planet has done it. I have really good friends that like have even in the wake of this whole like Shakira J-Lo thing, which like, I will say, even in their jokey meme bullshit, everybody was super fucking supportive, because like my friends are all woke as fuck. I've done a great job curating my fucking Facebook at this point. But like, even a couple of them have made like random jokes that, you know, I know that their hearts were in the right place, but like, it was still body shamey towards someone. And I feel like that's inappropriate and unnecessary. Like, you don't get to fucking make a comment on someone's body regardless. People's bodies aren't a joke. People's bodies aren't a punchline. People's bodies don't get to be policed. You don't get to police someone just because you fucking disagree with the way that they present themselves. You don't get to try and police someone just because you think it's funny that they did something, or you think there's a joke. I'm in an excellent wrestling fan group on Facebook that is a closed off private group with some
Wow, this is a group I'm not even a part of.
You're not. I can't say who runs it on this podcast, but it's a well-respected individual who is a writer who has really awesome perspectives on things. And this particular group is usually like, you know, we're very like queer focused, we're very queer positive, we're very like female positive, we're very person of color positive. Somebody in that group even made a joke about Paige's boob job with a photo. And they were like, I think the comment was like, well, Paige is going to have back problems after this week, LOL. And I'm like, I bristled. I really did. And I like, it's funny because like, I understand that like, it was just like, guys, like, if you've never seen me or met me, I'm a big girl, human, binary femme, whatever the fuck you want to call me at this point. I have giant boobs. Like, probably shouldn't go on public record with the actual size, but they're fucking huge.
They're big.
They big.
They're big.
I'm not mad at them. We'll put it that way. But like, was my first reaction to snicker because like, oh god, that's a mood. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But like, at the end of the day, I didn't. Do you know why? Because I don't fucking find people's bodies to be a fucking punchline. The only body I get to snicker at is my own. And I don't do it in a judgy way. I do it in a, wow, this thing is a weapon. Like, you don't get to fucking judge people. You don't get to police their bodies. Think before you post this bullshit. Think before you post funny fucking memes about, you know, people's bodies, even if you're in a body like mine. It doesn't make it right. And I will say, like, if I make a commentary on like a fat body in like a positive light and someone comes at me, like, fuck you, I'm in a fat body, I'm qualified to talk about fat bodies, but I'm not gonna crack a joke.
Yeah.
Right? Same fucking thing. Stop focusing. Who cares if Paige got a boob job? Also, she looks amazing.
Here's my question. Do these so-called wrestling journalists decide that they're going to write a full article when a wrestler who is a man gets a haircut
Right?
or does something to alter their appearance, do we get a full article? No.
Yeah.
It's only women. Why?
I think the subtext explains it all right
It's
there.
exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. No, they're like, whether I know that there's still people out there that want to like plug their ears and go la 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 la, but it's totally true. Like, women in general get. I mean, the Super Bowl thing is perfect example. Like, everybody was freaking out about the Shakira J-Lo performance, which, by the way, I thought was fucking fantastic. And like, by the way, I have Shakira, for those of you that don't know, is half Lebanese. And she, like, half of her name is actually, she has like Arabic in her name, in her full real name. She was raised learning Lebanese belly dance, which is an art that I have actually studied that particular form. And I can tell you, like, a lot of the shit she does, like, she's on point. She knows her shit. But like, anybody who bitched and moaned about that particular performance, did you bitch about Adam Levine being completely fucking shirtless?
No.
For all of last year?
Of course not.
Atlanta! Like, nobody. I'm sorry. Jenna Marbles pointed it out, and that is how he said it, and now I can't not laugh. Every time I fucking see him. Atlanta! I fucking die every time I see him in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, it's so funny. You went for your phone, and I'm like, oh, please don't pull it up. I'm gonna die of laughter if you do. But like, none of y'all were bitching and moaning when he was running around shirtless. And why? It's because it's a double standard. TLDR, who fucking cares if Paige got a boob job? She looks better than most of us do. And just let her live her life. I get that Paige has been kind of a troubling individual over the years, but you know what? It doesn't mean that her body's a fucking punchline.
No.
The only commentary I will allow in wrestling on someone's body is that Ric Flair looks like fucking Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean,
I stand by that. And that's not because I'm being rude. That's just fact.
And just for the record, the only commentary I had about the Super Bowl halftime show was how fucking good J-Lo looks at 50 years old.
Oh my god. Oh my god. See, and I'm just saying, like, here's my thing. Shakira's close to my age. J-Lo's older than me. Proof positive that, like, age does not fucking matter. Age doesn't matter shit. Like, you can still rock everything and be, like, fucking amazing no matter what age you are. Like, I stan those women. I loved the entire performance. I thought it was dope. It was great. Whatever. It was awesome. And stop policing people's bodies. Meh.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. I don't really have anything for you for Ring Watch this week.
Oh, I'm sad.
Ring of Honor didn't do anything dumb in the last week.
What? All right. Well, we'll double down. We'll double down on Ring Watch next week.
So your Ring Watches, Ring of Honor still exists.
I mean, that's not worth me pulling up the song.
No, it really isn't.
I'm sorry, guys. I'll make it up to you. I promise.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
Don't really have anything for you though.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and do your thing?
So for February, it's, as I'm sure many of you know, and if you don't, you should probably pull up a chair and get ready to listen, because throughout February, this is Black History Month. We plan on taking some time every single episode to focus a little bit on the history of people of color in wrestling, how Black performers and creators have influenced the industry, and then to also put a little bit of focus on someone who is a current person of color that we like to support, or who we think that you need to get to know a little bit more. So this week's focus is going to be on Ernie Ladd. Ernie Ladd was a gentleman who was born in 1938, and he passed away in 2007. So we're talking about a guy who was pivotal to the industry way back in the day. And the thing that we need to understand before we have a conversation about Ernie Ladd is you need to understand two things. Number one, this is one of the guys that defined heel in the industry. We would not have the kind of heels that evolved through some of the most popular eras of the WWE without the influence of Ernie Ladd. The second thing that you have to understand is in the time when he was wrestling and going through his most pivotal performances and involvement in the industry, Black performers were literally just used as bad guys or often pitted against one another. They were farcical objects. They were jokes often. It was just not a great situation. So we'll start out at the beginning. So he was actually a professional football player first and a professional wrestler. He went to Grambling State University on a basketball scholarship before he was drafted in 1961 by the San Diego Chargers of the American Football League. This guy was 6'9" and 290 pounds. This was, in the words of Brock Lesnar, big boy.
Big boy.
And he played defensive tackle, so like, dude knew what the fuck he was doing. We'll just put it that way. He was pretty pivotal in professional football, but we want to talk a little bit about his professional wrestling career. And the sad thing is he did meet a really sad end to colon cancer when he did finally die. But his build height was 6 feet 9 inches. Build weight was 320 pounds when he was wrestling. He was trained by Bobo Brazil, who is someone that we may actually do a little feature on at some point this month, because you want to talk about influential. That's another name that we need to freaking bring up. But we'll get to that. So he started wrestling in 1961, and as a publicity stunt, a bunch of wrestlers in San Diego challenged him to kind of a private wrestling workout, and apparently before long, he was kind of a part-time competitor in Los Angeles during football's off-season. He was a really popular performer, actually. It didn't take a lot of time for him to gain notoriety and to start drawing crowds. Knee problems eventually cut his football career short, so he wound up coming to professional wrestling full-time in 1969. This particular gentleman was one of the first black wrestlers to portray a heel character, like a true heel character, in a way that was believable. He would piss off people. He was kind of in fire with his interview work. He was very pivotal. I've actually seen in a lot of the research I've done, some people have kind of compared him to like the Black Dusty Rhodes of his time, because he was just so incredibly well versed. He used to have really politically incorrect nicknames as well that I'm not going to talk about. But it was a thing. He also apparently controversially kind of employed a taped thumb, which he said was needed because of an old football injury. Which was apparently a big part of his character work. And Ladd would look to be in serious trouble in a match, and he would frequently just walk out of the arena and accept the count out as a loss. Which is why to this day, some people who are kind of in the know on this, when someone does that, they go, oh, he's pulling an Ernie Ladd. And it's kind of funny because I feel like that's kind of a brilliant heel move that I wish was employed more often. Because there's times when we're watching matches and we're like, why would you not? You don't want to lose the belt. Why would you not just fucking walk away? Just leave. Like if I was a heel, that's what I would do. So Ernie Ladd was one of the first guys to really do that on the regular. He worked with a whole bunch of different associations, including Worldwide Wrestling Federation, where he was managed by the Grand Wizard of Wrestling. Additionally, he had several successful runs in the NWA territories, Mid-South, NWF, and WWC. So these are names like, if you've followed like the old territories, like this should all sound very, very familiar. He was known for his size and for his power, and it was constantly normal for him to engage in feuds. One of which, apparently fairly famously, was with Andre the Giant. And Ladd would refer to him as Andre the Dummy or the Big Fat French Fry during interviews. In certain spots, Ladd's wrestling nickname was the King, and he would wear an ornate crown. And in other spots, they'd call him the Big Cat, and he'd come in wearing a cowboy hat. After he wound up leaving the WWF, he kind of moved on to Mid-South territory. So this was Bill Watts territory. So like if you know about the old territories, these are names that will kind of resonate with you. he had a big part in the development of some other talent as well. He wound up retiring from wrestling in 86 due to recurring knee problems, which not really surprising. That's something that kind of arose when he was in football. He wound up returning to the WWF as a color commentator, calling out the 20-man battle royal at WrestleMania 2, which featured NFL players. And then he wound up earning a trial run during commentary for different shows. He did the April 1986 show at Madison Square Garden. He was also used as a fill-in for matches on syndicated programming like WWF Championship Wrestling. And he also teamed up with Gorilla Monsoon and Johnny Valiant in the broadcast booth during the big event at CNE Stadium in Toronto. He was inducted into the WCW Hall of Fame in 94 and the WWF Hall of Fame class in 95. And before becoming, he actually became the first and for several years only inductee in both halls. So that's kind of interesting. He is also an official honoree of the Cauliflower Alley Club. He was inducted in 2005. And he had quite the list of accolades. I'm just going to kind of run down this. Central States Wrestling, NWA Central State Tag Team Championship, NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship, NWA Southern Heavyweight Championship, NWA Georgia Tag Team Championship, tons of NWA titles, NWF North American Heavyweight Championship, NWA Brass Knuckle Championship, Mid-South Louisiana Heavyweight Championship, MWA North American Heavyweight Championship. Pro Wrestling Illustrated ranked him 205 on the 500 best singles wrestlers during the PWI years in 2003. His list of accolades just goes on and on and on and on. Wrestling Observer Newsletter also did a Hall of Fame class in 96 on him. So this is a gentleman that was absolutely pivotal. He was one of the best heels of his time. He was the first real heel that was taken as a serious heel. You're talking about a man of color in an era when, you know, civil rights was hotly debated and still a major thing. And he was picking fights with like Andre the Giant. Come on. You want to talk about a pivotal black man in wrestling history. You can read up all sorts of fun information on him. I promise. Google him, Ernie Ladd, Ladd. There's some wonderful articles. WWE.com has a great spotlight on him as well. ProFootballReference.com has some great info on him. And if you go onto YouTube, you'll see some really interesting interviews. There's one where he gets really heated with Vince McMahon that is absolutely delightfully crazy to watch. Highly recommend it. So that's our first highlight for this particular month. Let's focus on someone in the current era, though, because I do think that part of this is that we want to acknowledge also not just the history, but the people that are making history now and the people that are making waves. And I cannot think of a better place to start than Black's Excellence, Devon Monroe.
Absolutely.
Now, we're biased when it comes to Devon. I'm the first one to admit we're big local fans of his because he's a boy that came up through the circuit here. Mm-hmm. This young man, we have watched go from small, tiny VFW shows with with like one shitty light over the ring where you can barely see anything all night, with like no PA speaker to fucking talk
with like a Bluetooth speaker.
And I mean, like, I'm not knocking the promotion because like it's still super fun. Like they do a great job, but like we've seen him go from that to being in major matches in huge promotions.
First Wrestling,
Rise. And we're talking about like wrestling with people like Joey Ryan and wrestling with people like Effie, which is amazing. Which, by the way, that was one of the most fun matches I've ever seen in my life. Am I biased? Yes, because I love them both. But it was so fun. I love Effie. But yeah, like this kid is insanely talented. There's a couple of different reasons that I like him. First and foremost, let's talk about like the character that he portrays in the ring, because Devon is very pro LGBTQ. He represents as a queer man of color. And that is something that, like, I don't care who you are, I'm gonna support that.
Absolutely.
Because that's just like my jam. When we talk about ring work, because this is something that, like, we don't usually tag into when we start having these conversations, but I do want to talk about his ring work because I have never, or at least very rarely, seen someone his age with such consistent energy and impact. And every time I see him, it's like it's like that machine gets more finely tuned. I don't think I've ever seen him have a really bad match.
No.
Like,
not at all.
He just owns the shit out of his character. He owns the shit out of his ring work. When he hits, it's stiff and it's hard and it's great. When he wants to be crazy about it, he totally can. When he also has, like, some of the best facial expression work I've ever seen. There's an excellent gif of Jamie Senegal coming up and doing, like, his side split, his, like, ring split before he gets in. And Devon just gives him this look like, whew, okay, bitch. Like, it's so fucking good.
And I mean, we have to talk about the fact that, Devon Monroe really burst onto the scene in 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when we
he debuted on the Minnesota Wrestlers Top 50 at number 6.
Mm-hmm.
He debuted on the list.
Yeah.
At number 6.
Yeah, it's crazy to me to see
behind names like Eric Cannon and Darren Corbin.
Yeah, who are huge in their own fucking right.
Airwolf.
Yeah.
I mean, and Airwolf has been on this list for quite a few years now.
He really has. If you're curious and you want to see a little bit of his work, you can go to YouTube. It's Devon, Devon Monroe, Monroe. My personal favorite, there's a match from about 11 months ago from MAW. It's at Refuse to Lose, and it's Angel Dorado versus Devon Monroe. Now, we do love Angel Dorado too, because, like, holy shit. But this match is fantastic. Can't really speak enough good about this kid. He's insanely talented. He's starting to really get some swell on a national level. And
I think you're going to see him WrestleMania weekend at some of these shows.
I'm pretty sure he's already had a couple bookings he's announced. I just haven't looked.
I'm trying to see for sure.
Take a look. But you can follow him on Twitter. He's fantastic and an absolutely delightful human being. We've always enjoyed watching him, and I can't wait to see more of his career just completely take off.
He is at the Devon Monroe on Twitter. I am not seeing his bookings.
Yeah, I might be thinking of someone else because we know a lot of wrestlers. Kind of like, and everybody's getting those announcements ready. So, crazy. But we'll, as soon as we hear some stuff, like, we'll definitely share it. I'm sure he's going to be getting around. But if you get a chance, if he comes to your city, please take the time, go to the show, check him out. He's delightful. And also take the time to learn a little bit today and read. Spend some time this month learning about Black history and Black history in wrestling. This is important. Take the time to educate yourselves. And especially if you're not a person of color, like, acknowledge your privilege and take that time to, like, step back and out of yourself. Take a different paradigm and really work on educating yourself and then elevating that message for the rest of this month. And honestly, well beyond that. It shouldn't just be for 1 month. Much like we say Pride extends beyond June. This stuff doesn't go away, and it's an important piece of wrestling history. So take some time this month and check out a little bit more, and we'll share some stuff as we can.
I think that was a pretty good episode this week.
Yeah, so I think it's about time to wrap that bad boy up.
I think so too. So I'm pretty sure we'll have some AEW and NXT to talk about next week.
We definitely will.
We will have more to talk about with wrestlers of color.
Yes.
Next week as well.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, I'm Richard Townsend.
I'm Shannon Townsend.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Hey, make good choices.